Okay, we're going to take functions and we're going to perform the 4 basic operations: add them together, subtract, multiply, and divide. 2 different ways of noting it. You can put the f and g in the first parentheses, or you can break them apart. It doesn't matter either way you go. I will tell you, if you're adding or subtracting, you need to combine like terms. If you're multiplying, you definitely need to do any distributing that is necessary. And if you're dividing, you want to make sure your denominator can never be 0, because if you divide by 0, you have an undefined function. Okay, let's do the 4 operations for these two. So let's start with f of x plus g of x. So that's going to give me 2x minus 5 plus 1 minus x. Nothing to distribute here, just combining like terms. 2x minus x gives me x. Negative 5 plus 1, negative 4. F of x minus g of x. 2x minus 5 minus 1 minus x. This one I do have a negative to distribute, so it's going to become 2x minus 1 plus x. It's going to leave me with 3x minus 2. F of x times g of x. 2x minus 5 times 1 minus x. This time I'm going to multiply my binomials. We've got 2x minus 2x squared minus 5 plus 5x. So final answer would be negative 2x squared plus 7x minus 5. And my division. My division is going to look like f of x divided by g of x, which equals 2x minus 5 over 1 minus x. You're not going to go any further than that. We haven't gone into how to divide that. So with this, we want to find the domain. So you've got to think. This whole expression down here cannot equal 0. So off to the side, if I take 1 minus x, cannot equal 0. Subtract, or just add my x, that would be easier. Add my x, 1 cannot equal x. So my domain is all x values such that x does not equal 1. Okay, this problem is asking me to do multiplication and division. So my f of x times g of x, I'm going to have square root of x times square root of 4 minus x squared. The only thing you can do is to put all of this under one square root, since they were both under square root. So square root of x times 4 minus x squared, which you could simplify to square root of 4x minus x cubed. The domain on this one, what can you never take the square root of? Anything underneath that square root has to be greater than or equal to 0. You take a square root of a negative and you have an imaginary number. This one's going to be a little bit more difficult because it's a cubed. Let's try factoring and see what we can figure out. If I take an x out, I have 4 minus x squared greater than or equal to 0. Same place where we came from, so we might as well not have multiplied it. So my x has to be greater than or equal to 0, and 4 minus x squared has to be greater than or equal to 0, which means x squared, negative x squared, greater than or equal to negative 4, divide by negative x squared less than or equal to 4, square root, x less than or equal to 2. We won't worry about the negative 2 since we already have to be greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so my domain, my number has to be greater than or equal to 0, but less than or equal to 2. So all x such that we're going to say 0 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 2. Now if I do my division, I've got f of x divided by g of x, which is going to be square root of x over square root of 4 minus x squared. Not a whole lot of simplifying you can do here. You can put it under one square root, but it really doesn't make a big difference. Square root of x over 4 minus x squared. The main thing here is 4 minus x squared cannot equal 0, but in fact it has to be greater than or equal to 0 because it is under a square root. So if I solve that problem, that would be 4 minus x squared has to be greater than or equal to 0. But if we look right here, it can't equal 0. So I'm going to take off that bar. I'm going to say 4 greater than x squared. Then if I square root that, I've got 4, oh, not 4 anymore, it's going to be a 2. So I've got 2 greater than x greater than negative 2. One more thing we have to look at here, and you've got to step back and take a look at the big picture, is anything on top. I can't take the square root of a negative on top. So everything from negative 2 up to 0 is going to be out of the question. So when I write my domain, all x such that I can be 0, I can be equal to 0, so 0 less than or equal to x, but I'm going to have to be less than 2. So we took into account two things here. One, this denominator is under a square root, has to be greater than or equal to 0. You can't take the square root of a negative. And the other problem, x has to be greater than or equal to 0 right here by itself. So putting those two conditions together has to be between 0 and 2. Okay, a little practice on the notation. F, G, x. So f of x times g of x. So it's just written a different way. Fg of x is going to be my x squared times my x minus 3, which is going to be x cubed minus 3x squared. If I do my second one, Fg of 2t, so I'm substituting in 2t everywhere I see an x. So for f, that means I'm going to have 2t quantity squared. For g, that means I'm going to have 2t minus 3. Multiplying all that out means distributing the square first. I'm going to have 4t squared times 2t minus 3, 8t cubed minus 12t squared. My last one, Fg of 2, means I'm putting a 2 everywhere I see an x. So I've got a 2 squared times 2 minus 3. 4 times negative 1 is going to give me negative 4.